Hello, my name is Catherine Rhodes, and for the museum review, I decided to review the museum, the Sistine Chapel, virtually. Of course, that's why I'm videoing. The piece of art or painting that I chose to focus on was the Deluge, which portrayed Noah in the Ark, or when God flooded the earth. As you can see right now, I'm taking the virtual tour of the museum. I think some of my first observations of the museum was that it was just one room. I think it kind of surprised me because of majority of the museums that I've been in, they were always very spread out and had a bunch of different rooms. Another thing I noticed was, of course, I can put it up, was how high the ceilings were. If this is the point of view of a person and they look over and they're so very close to the ground basically compared to how tall those ceilings are. And I think it's so interesting to see that somebody was up there painting that, especially in 1512 when they didn't have a lot of technology to be doing stuff like that. When I first looked at all the paintings, or my first thoughts were that they were all the same piece of art. I thought they were all the same piece of work. I didn't really know a lot about the backstory to include them. I mean, what I do know now is that they were all, of course, created by the same painter, who was Michelangelo. He was commissioned, I believe, in 1509, and I think he finished it around 1512. But there are so many different types of paintings within the whole building. I believe the one I focused on was the Deluge, which I might have to zoom in on later. But something I really kind of found interesting was, if you take a closer look at some of these paintings, is how they kind of use water as a boundary. Like I mentioned this before in my written review, but I found it interesting how they use water, or he used water, as a way to separate his different storylines, or to separate like each part of a story. Of course, I did also like how the temple, or the chapel, seemed almost plain in comparison to his paintings. In fact, it kind of looks like a plain, almost beige or nude color. Of course, you have some of these detailings right here, but like surrounding the paintings, your focus is going to be on the people. It's definitely going to be less on the chapel itself and more on his artwork, because, I mean, after all, he spent 4 years on it. So another thing I found really interesting was how the building was his campus. And I think it's called fresco, the style or the media used, where it means like painting on a wall. I think it kind of adds to the texture of the paintings as well, just because like that had to be difficult to paint on, and especially in the type of detail that he kind of portrayed or showed. I found it very interesting. As far as this room goes, I just was very surprised how many individual pieces were really included. It was kind of a lot to take in, and I think a lot of times it was a little confusing because there's just so much. But overall, I really did enjoy the museum, and I found it to be kind of refreshing compared to the museums I've been to locally. I mean, of course, they're not as high profile, but I did find them to be very different based off of the styles of art and the different artists, and the way that this is only one man and all of his work in one huge chapel or room.